What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. Oh my God, today's TCB is epic. We're talking about Deming, we're talking about bourbon, we're talking about disruption, covering everything from big ideas to systems thinking. I mean, this episode is amazing, and I know I say that a lot. We've got Doug Hall on the program. Don't know Doug? Well, you certainly need to, so stick around. He's the author of Proactive Problem Solving, the founder of Eureka Ranch and Brain Brew Distillery. Doug's an innovation expert and the author of 7 other books. He started life as a chemical engineer and is on the board of the Deming Institute. This was a banger conversation, my favorite of 2025 so far, and I know you're going to dig it. So buckle up, TCBers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Doug Hall on today's TCB.
Welcome to SkyTeam's The Corporate Bartender, where we gather some of the best HR and people leaders to discuss what's happening on the people side of business. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's your favorite day and mine. It's Corporate Bartender Day. It is the 16th of April. If you haven't filed your taxes, you're late. And Ruby, you know what that means. It's April, and April's half over. We are into Q2. It's almost pumpkin spice time. It's almost Christmas again. It's the 223rd time that we've saddled up this horse for this rodeo, and I'm excited about today. Today's going to be a fun day. We've got a guest. His name is Doug Hall, and Doug makes bourbon. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about Doug. He's written a book or 8. And we're going to talk about his latest book that's called Proactive Problem Solving, the organizational engagement system behind the world's most disruptive bourbon distillery. So we're going to get into that. But before we do a little housekeeping, we've got dark days ahead. Ruby and I will be on the road next week, the week after that, the week after that, the week after that, and the week after that. 5 weeks in a row of travel, mostly to the East Coast. We'll be spending a lot of time in Virginia and Massachusetts. So upside, we are going to go to a Red Sox game at Fenway, and I'm super duper stoked about that. As the flag bearer of the Boston Red Sox for Brian Rich, I can't wait to be in that stadium. When we get back on the 28th of May, we've got a guest. Her name is Tracy Austin, and she's the host of the People Strategy podcast. And she's got this idea called Drunk HR. So what I'm thinking is that should be a bartender plus Doug Hall plus Tracy Austin endeavor. We ought to start up Drunk HR. And if at the very least, we should get Doug to sponsor it, I think. All right. Well, that is the state of the state at this point in time. We're going to get into our conversation, and we're going to talk a little bit about disruption, bourbon, employee engagement, systems thinking. We got a lot of things to cover. So his name is Doug Hall. As I said, he's the author of Proactive Problem Solving. He's the founder of Eureka Ranch and Brain Brew Distillery. He's been named one of America's top innovation experts by Inc. He's kind of been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Doug's got a storied career, and we're going to get into this disruptive framework, why he wrote a book or 8. Crazy town. So we're going to talk about those things. But first, Doug, we didn't warn you. We dance people onto the show here. So let's give Doug a warm TCB welcome, shall we? And see, Doug, I let the music play until the guest starts dancing. There it is. There it is.
Good moves. Those are some new moves I haven't seen on camera, Doug.
Yeah, but I've got experience because we've now got a grandbaby. And I'm in Cincinnati. She's in Sacramento. And multiple times she and I boogie together. 3-year-olds love it when their poppy is what I've called is fun. And we have a lot of fun.
And I love that you use the word boogie. So points for boogieing. So Doug, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we always like to start with a little bit of an origin story because I imagine when you started off on this career thing, this isn't where you thought you'd end up. So tell us a little bit about how it started and how it's going now and what happened in between.
It's interesting. It's interesting. For reasons I don't know, when I was little, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10, I got into Ben Franklin.
Okay. The person, not the chain of discount stores.
No, that's right. That's right. and he was an inventor. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world to be an inventor. And so I decided I wanted to be an inventor. And by the time I got to 12 or 13, I invented a learn to juggle kit and some things. And I started my first business. Right on. And my dad was getting worried about me being an inventor. He was very concerned. And my dad had a big influence. And so he decided, he said, well, what you really should do is be a patent attorney. See, and on the side. And I'm like, thinking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine a worse thing. Now, as it turns out, my oldest daughter, however, is wired that way.
Yeah.
And she's actually a patent attorney and a patent examiner. And she looks at like 3,000 patents for everyone she reviews. I go, does this drive you crazy? She says, no, Dad, it's like a giant mystery and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I am so glad there are people just like you. And she's awesome at it. So I wanted to be an inventor. And so I ended up finding entrepreneurship and I started making products and selling them and going through. And in college, I was doing this. Didn't have any like real jobs. I was inventing stuff and selling it and doing stuff. And then my dad sat me down December of 1980.
Okay.
In the living room. And my mother was Canadian. So I'm Canadian, American, US citizenship. And he called me into the living room. Now, remember, when you have a mother whose family came from Scotland, who has the Oriental rugs and the Duncan Fife couch, you were not allowed in the living room.
No.
Yeah.
Except
That's for company.
Two times you could be there. You could be in there during holidays, but we were still a week or two before Christmas, so it was not the time yet. Or you were in trouble.
Right.
And so my dad calls me in. He says, Douglas, let's go in the living room.
Oh, Douglas. You got the full name too.
I had just gotten engaged to my girlfriend. Okay. And we had been together some before that. And I said, and I was just thinking about her.
Yeah.
Because I was back from school and she lived there and he's like, Douglas, I want to tell you, I've been taking these classes and I've been working with this guy named Dr. W. Edwards Deming.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And the first company, Deming is the guy, for those who aren't familiar, he's the guy that created Japan.
Yeah.
As we know it. It had a negative net worth. General MacArthur brings him over to teach him how to make quality. Made in Japan was a joke back then. And he taught him how to make quality. And the U.S. was getting killed back then. Cars and all the auto industry is in a mess. And Nashua Corporation, Bill Conway, where my dad worked, had brought Deming back. And my dad had worked with him. And he says, I've been working with this guy. My dad was engineering physics major. Not prone to emotional outbursts. And unlike me, who was different. And he says, I've had this guy and I've been working with him. And that's it. And he's taught me how the Japanese are killing us.
Okay.
You've got to learn this. This is going to be really important. I was a chemical engineering major at the time. And when I graduated, but I went into advertising at Procter & Gamble, but I carried it through. And he said, Dr. Deming taught me that 94% of the problem is the system, 6% is the worker.
Okay.
Stop beating up the workers and fix the system. When the workers make a mistake, is it a common cause or special cause? Is it a problem of the system, or did the worker make a mistake? Most of the time, it's going to be the system. They don't have the proper tools. They don't have the proper training. They don't have the proper resources. Blah 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 blah. Okay, and he says you've got to learn this stuff. And so I went into Procter and Gamble, and I said into marketing. So engineering to marketing, kind of a leap.
Side note: you're the third guest who's been in marketing at P&G on the Bartender. Just so you know.
Well, I guess we know. And so I started to approach everything as a system. And having an engineering background and a marketing from my business and entrepreneurship thing, I kept working at things as systems. And sure enough, I mean, here I'm a chemical engineer from the University of Maine, okay? At P&G, they rate you, they pay you based on your odds of making it to brand manager, okay? And on the chart, I wasn't on the chart. So the big MBAs from Harvard and all of those places, they're making 2 to 3 times what I'm doing. Okay, I'm like a cheap date there. Amazingly, because of my systems approach to looking at problems, it's not just marketing, but as a system of interconnected parts, as Dr. Deming taught, I was the first promoted in my group.
Wow.
In the class, and went on to do things. I created the invention team there, put 9 products on the market in 12 months, which is still a record. And it's not because I'm smarter, because I graduated with a 2 point something, okay? But systems thinking has an exponential impact on your ability to do things. And the magic of everything I've done in my entire life is systems. Approaching it as a systems. Instead of doing the blame game, do it as a systems. And so my life was transformed in that living room when he said that. And he's gone now, but I think of him regularly because that changed my entire life. And as it turns out, many years later, I got connected with Dr. Deming's grandson, Kevin Cahill, who runs the Deming Institute. And I said, well, my dad worked with your grandfather, blah, 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 blah. Uh-huh. I'm taking Deming from the factory and applying it to the human work systems where all of the chaos is. And he said, well, the old timers think this is kind of weird, but we need to expand this. And I think it's right. He says, let's do it. And next thing you know, I'm now on the board of directors of the Institute and working with them. And it's been so joyful. And it's like we get together and we always raise a glass to his grandfather and my dad, because we know somewhere they're dancing. We're continuing the systems mantra to go do it, that it's just been lost. It's just been lost. And it's up to, I got to tell you, I'm so excited to be with you guys because HR is a magical place that has influence far beyond what they think.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Far beyond what they think. Yeah. Because they have a view of the system that other people have.
Yes.
People inside a silo don't get to see the system. And
preach.
It is so powerful. So powerful. So powerful.
I love it. Mm-hmm. So when was this? When did you have this conversation with Cahill? Like what time frame was this? Because this is game-changing kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was. Well, what happened is, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I tell it the way it is. I have an advisory board at the ranch, and one of the guys was older that was helping us, and he says, have you contacted the Deming family? They need to know about this. Oh, yeah, they're not going to get it. And he kept bugging me until I finally called up. I said, Kevin, you don't know me, but my dad, when the NBC did a special of Japan can, why can't we? Which set off the quality movement. And after that, Ford, Chrysler, GM, they all came to Nashua, New Hampshire, where my dad was working at Nashua Corporation. And in the documentary, they talk about a paper. They talk about a success story that Deming had. And hold on just one second.
Yeah.
And that, my dad passed away, I found this folder
Whoa.
this is the first paper given on Dr. Deming in the United States.
That is awesome.
Wow.
And where he talked about the fact that it's the system. And we've got to stop beating up the workers and blaming the workers. We need to look at it as a system and approach it as that. And amazing things will happen. And they had saved a bunch of money with the carbonless paper thing and the rest of that stuff. So, so Kevin was about 15 years ago, we first connected. And then we started doing some things. And now they're holding the next Deming board meeting is going to be held at our Eureka Ranch, which is right next door to where I live. So.
Wow. Well, so tell us about that. What is Eureka Ranch? What is Brain Brew Distillery? How did those things come into existence?
So Eureka Ranch, we invent big ideas for people and help people with it. And we help them create systems for innovation. Because, innovation has a pretty bad rap with a lot of people. And I will tell you, deservedly so. Because people are just winging it with stuff and they're like, trust me, we can feel it. And it's too important to gamble on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we turn it from an art to a science and give them a system, a reliable, reproducible system that helps them grow the business. And literally, it's the fives. 500% more big ideas, 500% faster to market, and 500% more successful. Okay? I mean, it's a step change. It's a game changer. When you apply innovation as a system, driving out the risk and focus, there's a whole pile of stuff that you have to do. And so that's what the ranch does. And one of those things I liked was whiskey. So for 23 years, I've worked with the Macallan, which is the most expensive whiskey in the world from Scotland. And I started to do it. And I learned that 70% of the flavor of whiskey comes from the wood.
Right.
And I said, I worked at a paper mill one summer as a summer engineer. That's kind of like the same thing. You get heat to pull the lignins out to get the cellulose to make paper. When you make whiskey, you're taking those out as the barrel gets warm and then cool. You want to get those lignins to put into the whiskey to create the water of life, they call it, the color and the flavor. And I said, how hard can it be? So
famous last words, right?
I started the experiments and I said, and if you're going to do this, putting it in a rick house where you have warm summers and cold summers, let's not even talk about global warming. That's like a random dice roll.
Yeah.
Deming says drive out variation in the process.
Right.
I built a system to control the temperature within 1/10 of a degree and ran thousands of experiments. And sure enough, we figured out something called woodcraft finishing that allows us to make some of the best whiskeys. And in fact, our Dexter has been named one of the 12 best whiskeys in the world. And you can get it in Denver. It's really big out there.
I've had that.
You can get it right there. And 95 points. And it's named after Edmund Dexter, who was the Johnny Walker of America. In the 1850, 85% of the whiskey in America came from Cincinnati. And he was like Johnny Walker, a barrel blender. You'd walk into your clay jug and you'd ask what you liked and you'd mix it to get your taste. And so one of the things we did is this one has 200-year oak in it, which is magical because this is like taking you back to the way it would have tasted back then.
Wow.
And in fact, I've had whiskey from the 1900s and has that same character. It's one of a kind. It's like nothing else you've got there. And then we say, well, if Dexter was doing custom, can we do that? And so we put together a system where people can create their own whiskey. They answer 13 questions on an AI app and they get a code and they go up to the bartender, they scan it, and we have a machine that creates your personal whiskey by the glass.
Oh, how cool is that?
We'll be right there, Doug. We'll be right there.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I just love this. I love this conversation about how a chemical engineering major makes whiskey. Like, it's awesome. Controlled to within 1/10 of a degree. And then he said, I ran thousands of experiments. You're like my spirit animal, Doug. This is awesome.
Well, and it was the distillery. I'd invented ideas for Nike and everybody, pretty much. And I've done TV shows. I was one of the judges on American Inventor the first season, and all of this stuff. And so I found this young guy, Joe Gergash, who's amazing. And he was from the restaurant industry.
Okay.
And in the restaurant industry, successful restaurants use systems. Because if you don't have a system, you're dead at 7:00 on a Friday night. Mm. And they also know how to do the math. Because you don't make any money if you don't do that. And I said, hey, take a job here for a few months. Let's see if we can figure it out. Sure enough, we figured it out. So he co-founds the company with me. And the company gets lucky and we get going. And during COVID, it's doubling every 3 to 6 months. 1,000 to 2,000.
Are you saying people drank a lot during COVID, Doug?
Oh, believe me, those days were great. And it went up and up and up. Well, the problem is you're hiring people, to fill the bottles and all of this stuff. And these are not, these are good, solid working people. And I realized that as we kept doubling the business, getting up to 100,000 cases, we couldn't do it with Joe and I.
Well, and you can't just randomly throw people at it.
You've got to get the people part of the process.
Yeah.
And I'm complaining about this to someone, and they said, "Hey, I thought you were a smart guy and innovative. Can't you invent a way to get employees engaged? Have you seen the numbers? Only like 30 or 40% of people are engaged. Causes a chain reaction of negatives. They're pissed off. They hate their job.
Yeah.
Can't you figure out a way? How hard can it be?" Right? I'm like, "Whoa, yeah, sure I can." And thus I took all of the work from inventing big ideas and said, let's get the workers engaged and use everything. And I'd written 7 books at that time. My books tend to be long. I'm not short on words. 100+ words. And my publisher loved the idea of the book, but he said, you only get 50,000 words.
Oh, no.
Because if you want the everyday folks to do it, you've got to write it simple and straight and clear. So much harder to distill down years of doing this into the essence of what it is. And I got to tell you, though, I am so proud of this book. It's my smallest and probably the most important book that I will ever write. And it's all about, it was learned by doing this with this crazy distillery.
I love it. Well, and the book, it is easy to read, and it is only 215 pages long. So
yeah, but big type and lots of space for old people to be able to read it.
But the book is broken down into chunks, right? It's into this workflow kind of a distribution. It starts with defining problems and solutions, and then creating them, and then driving out risk. So tell us about that process. Like, how did you come up with this process?
Well, it's not rocket science. Find the problem, do it. But the way we do it, if somebody just posted on Amazon, and I'm kind of odd on reading reviews because sometimes they'll get you annoyed, Like, dweeb, didn't you read the whole thing? So I have a tendency to not read reviews when I've done plays. I have a tendency to I'm at an age in life, when you're well into Social Security, you can't say you're young anymore. Okay, so I can't say that. And so I'm at a point now where I write what I love. I do things that I love. And
like it or don't care.
If you don't like it, okay, then it wasn't for you. And when I write stuff I love, at least I know somebody's going to love it, but people tend to react. But somebody wrote recently, they said, and I did like this, and they said, what I like about Doug is a lot of people pandering their wares on employee engagement and I talk these lofty things because they want to be self-important. He just tells me how to do it. Mm-hmm. And whether it's inventing ideas or doing it, I'm very big on the how-to. So let me take you through the 3 really quick. So to define ideas, here's the magical thing that you got to do. And do this tomorrow and you will see a benefit. This generation needs to know why. When I was at
100%.
P&G, I'd be there at 7:30 at night, just married, wanting to go see my girlfriend. And if you asked me what I was doing, I'd tell you what I'm doing. If you said why, I had no freaking clue. And we put up with it because we were of that generation. Today's generation, they're out of there.
Yeah.
But if they know why, you're putting their brain as part of it, and it causes a transformation, and they get engaged. Okay? And so you got to give them what and why and define it with clarity. And the first problems to get people started, because you know how it is, Eric, the problem isn't getting people to do it. It's getting them to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you go to a training and what is everybody?
Yeah.
I
I've
remember
got real work to do. I don't have time to be here.
I was in the back of the room, one of the three biggest auto companies. Well, there's only big three in Detroit. I'm in the back of the room. They've got 400 people. There's a new chief something or other officer at the front talking about this new movement we're going to do. And I'm talking to some of the guys in the very back. And, the people in the back row, they're the ones that tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to my guy. I said, so what do you think about this guy? He says, oh, it won't last.
Yeah. There'll be another one. He'll say
are
stuff.
You going to do this?
Yeah.
Hell no. No reason to do it.
We'll wait him out.
And so when I did this thing, I said, this is so important. These people can find joy in their work. They can really find joy in their work. If I can get them to get over this thing, I fully understand and agree with their attitude. Because most of the stuff are fads, leadership isn't really committed. And that's why I say you got to do this from the bottom up, top down, and the middle out. It's a three-prong attack. If you really want to change your culture, I guarantee we can do it. But you've got to be engaged in it. And there's different roles for everybody. And I said, but to get the employees, the team members, that's the hardest. And so I said, I got to have a way. Because if I talk about how we're going to make more money for the company, they're going to go, so what?
Don't care.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And so I said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on teaching you to be a proactive problem solver of broken systems. Okay? And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stop the stupid in your day. Does anybody have stupid things that are going on in their work? Communications problems, standard operating procedures that aren't any good, IT things, bugs, things that you have to do workarounds. Or if it's in a factory, are you sore at the end of the day? If you're sore at the end of the day, then there's a stupid system going on.
Yeah.
And I said this thing, and next thing you know, about a month later, I'm doing a thing with a team, and I said to a team, I said, we're going to start with stopping the stupid, giving you a benefit, and then we'll open you up to more stuff. Momentum. You got to get started. And she said, yeah, what's stupid is my back hurts. Your back hurts? How long has your back hurt? Oh, about 10 years.
Just as long as I've worked here.
You're still doing this? Well, bless you, ma'am, for staying after 10 years of your back. And so I said, why is your back hurt? She says, because I assemble these machines with a couple of the ladies, and at the end of the day, we have to lift them and put them into the box. Okay? So her team leader was there and we talked about it. And I said, well, let's do a create session now to figure out ways to make her back not hurt. And one of the people said, I saw her in another part of the factory. It's a big company. They have a different way that they do their boxes. Their equipment's really heavy, so they roll it onto the cardboard and then build the box around it instead of lifting it. Huh. I said,
interesting.
Could we get those boxes? Oh, yeah, it's not a problem.
Stupid stopped right there.
And she is the greatest advocate for this. She and her team have gone from making 4 to 6 machines a day to 40 machines a day they can assemble. And they are on fire as proactive problem solvers, better work systems. The human systems is where all the waste is.
Yeah.
And if you want to blow your brain out, I did a survey and I said, oh, they got to be exaggerating, but I am yet to find anybody that says they are exaggerating. We did the math because we do a lot of original research. I got a full-time statistician at the ranch because we're very data-driven. And so we can put numbers on anything. We know ways to do it. And I asked people how much time do they waste each day? And they said, we did the math, the average manager wastes 3.5 hours a day dealing with employee mistakes and broken systems.
Wow. A day. A day.
Oh a day. I mean, people say they don't have time for this. I said, you like the crap you do with every day? Track your day. How much of it is stupid? Okay, now you can't spend the time on this as a leader because that's not a good use of your time. But if we can empower those people that are close to the work to fix those systems with guardrails, giving them clarity when we lay out the problem, then a miracle will occur.
Wow.
And that's what we're seeing. And it is so exciting. I am so fired up about this stuff.
I can't tell, Doug. You've got no energy for this.
The potential is so amazing of what people can do. It's amazing. So you got to get them engaged. That's what this is all about.
I mean, it's the what's in it for them. They get a benefit from solving this problem. When your back hurts for 10 years, that's a problem. And to have that go away, man, sign me up too, right? Like people can get on board with that. It makes sense.
And nobody goes to work and says, let's do crappy work.
No.
All you got to do is go ask them what they do on the weekend. And those people that you thought were not very creative, they're tricking out their Harley, they're building things, they're doing amazing things. They think then, and they're a droid with you.
Right.
You hired them. You hired people that were proactive and the people that you thought would be, to help you grow the business. And what happened?
You beat it out of them.
You beat it out. So I said, the leader, I say, are your people, do you believe in your people? No, they're not very good. I said, let's fire all the bastards right away. And bring in a whole new group. But you know what's going to happen?
They suck too.
Yeah.
You're going to put a bunch of good people in a broken system, and what do you end up with?
Bunch of broken people.
It's not that. It's a system, stupid. Fix the system. And it's a methodical approach, making the system visible, looking for variation, psychology, and then experience, plan, do. I mean, you can do this without having to bring in consultants and spend $1 gazillion in disruption.
Yeah.
I'm talking about never-ending, continuously improving the system. I don't want an expert to come in and do it, because then only the expert knows the wiring. Right. I want the people on the work to fix the system, because then they can make it better.
Yeah,
because we can always make it better. It's like joy in work at that point.
So you lived through this, right? You started the distillery. You were doing small batch, and then everybody was drinking during COVID. So the orders started to come in. So you lived this, right? You had to change your system because you physically couldn't produce enough to keep up. So how did you do that? Like, what was your process for driving to get to the point where you could do 100,000 cases a year?
Well, the benefit I had is I had seen transformational things happen at our companies that we'd worked with as a consultant. And unique to us, so like, if you remember, I don't have it right here. If you know the American Express Black Card. Yeah. $2,000.
I don't have one, but I know what they are.
Yeah.
Well, a lady named Peggy called me and she says, Doug, I was doing a lot of work for American Express at the time. And she says, we want to sell it. There's a rumor there's a black card. There isn't. We want to create one and we want to charge $2,000. I started laughing. She says, yeah, I know. But I got to do it. And you're the most innovative guy I know, so figure it out. And so they came to the ranch. We invented a value proposition, a lot of stuff on it. Great to be enjoyed over some fine whiskey.
Yeah.
I love that you filled both sides of the supply curve here, right?
Yeah.
The thing that happened, though, that was so amazing was we get done and we get these ideas and they go, we can make this work. We can really make it work. We're going to go recommend it. We're going to do it. And then about 3 weeks later, she called me again and she says, Doug, I got a problem. I said, did the board meeting go well? I mean, is there a problem? No. Oh, no, Doug, they love it. Problem is, operations is looking at us like, how the hell are we going to do this?
Mm.
Can I have my operations team come to the ranch and help them invent the systems to deliver what we're talking about? And so we got known as the people that didn't just think of the ideas, but figured out how to make them real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had those experiences, only here the customer is me and Joe.
Right.
And fortunately, he is so great because the real restaurateurs are great at systems.
Yeah.
He's methodical and they're documented and they're clear and they're improved.
Mm-hmm.
And so this young guy who is amazing, I had one of those birthdays at one of those years that flip over, and my second daughter was going to hold the party. And I said, why don't you work with Joe? He can help you put the party together. Well, now he's my son-in-law. I got a grandbaby. And I got to tell you, bourbon's been very, very good to me because he is the greatest son-in-law on planet Earth.
Oh, that's awesome.
Aww.
And so, but let me tell you, planning family events is a bit of a pain because he's like, well, what's the system going to be? I said, come on, can't we just go and wing it? You love to wing everything.
Joe, we're ordering pizza. That's what we're doing.
So, I mean, it's as simple as, it's like the title of the book. It's not fancy, but I always capitalize proactive because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's really what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people to be reactive. We want them to be proactive. Firefighting is for losers. It means you got a crappy system, and you should not be celebrated for being a firefighter. We need to abolish firefighting.
We say this all the time, man. I used to work in an organization that promoted superhero mentality. Like there were posters in like the cafeteria and in the hallways of like a torso of a person in a business shirt, unbuttoning their shirt, like pulling it apart. And the company logo was in the middle, like the Superman logo. And that firefighting behavior was championed and rewarded. So people did that. We, as the HR guy in one of these organizations, we had a process to go root out what we called arsonist firefighters, because they would set shit on fire so that they could be the one to fix it, so that they could get the accolades.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so horrible. Totally with you on that. But, like you said, innovation, people kind of scoff at innovation. And, we've been around, had the good fortune of being around several innovative thinkers. If you want to start doing innovation in your company, what's the first step? How do you get started?
Well, first off, you got to actually have a system. And it's not about climbing on top of the building, getting in a lotus position and waiting for lightning to hit. Okay? There are disciplined step-by-step methods. And in the second part of the book on Create, I give, basically a very simplified but powerful, the essence of what it is. And, you got to start out with what and why. You got to make a strategic decision. Mm-hmm. If you got 360 degrees, where do you want to focus? Where do you think the opportunity is? You as the leadership, you know better than others. You can see the bigger view. What market? So like with Joe and I, on premise, on bars and restaurants, mm-hmm. It's like pay. You need to do something crazy. It's too expensive for craft guys. That's why craft guys tend to stay in package stores, because you can do better.
Yeah.
And so I said, how do we win there? I said, we put a blending machine with custom bourbon on the back bar, and now the bartender can make fully customized. Right now they're making a cocktail, but the bulk of the cocktail is somebody else's, Jimmy or Jack's stuff, not your stuff. And I said, that changes the game. And so, when you think of that, and we said, okay, that's where we're going to focus, and that's what we're going to do. And then to create the ideas, we paint the vision of winning in this direction. That's who we're going to play. And then we turn around and there's 3 things to creating ideas. And the data is rock solid on this. It's been published. I've done peer review. I've done research over and over again. To create an idea, you need 3 things: stimulus, diversity, and drive out fear. And stimulus means learning. And that means learning about customer insights, customer mining, tech mining, patent mining, future mining. Gather that stuff. And then once you gather that stimulus, it literally loads in exponential, which is diversity. And you need to take and get people who look at that same stimulus in a different way. You know, depending upon your background and your experiences, you literally get an exponential increase in the number of ideas. If you take the stimulus and do it, you're going to get one thing. But if you bring a team together, you get an exponential kick. So that's the potential: stimulus and diversity, learning and collaboration. But the problem is fear. It shuts us down. So to drive out fear, what we do is we give people a very simple process called Plan, Do, Study, Act. It's known as the Deming cycle. It's different than Toyota's, and we work with Toyota. We have PDSA and PDCA, for those who know. Or we also call it fail fast, fail cheap. What's the smallest experiment we can do to learn it? And so what I teach leadership is, when leadership understands this, I say, when somebody comes to you with an idea, I'm going to get a little wonky on you on psychology here a little bit. You got HR people, so they can probably handle it.
We're good. We like it.
An employee puts up their hand and it's got an idea. They think about the idea, they get the courage, they come up and they say, okay, Ruby, this is my idea that I want to do. Now, they do a bad job explaining it, so we teach them a way to explain it better. We give them a simple structure for doing it. And they explain the idea, and you can see things that person can't see. You say, well, that's not going to work. And the employee's like, oh.
Shut down.
Come up with another one. And it's a we, they. So what we teach is, they don't know. So what I want you to do, and this is a subtle thing, but it's a gargantuan thing, it's a game changer, is, Ruby, what I want you to do is, instead of telling me it won't work, I want you to reframe it as a death threat. And I'm purposely using inflammatory language.
Yeah.
And this is a serious issue.
Sure.
When you say there could be a death threat, we can't afford to do that, or it's going to cost us too much. Now we've created a third thing that, Ruby, you and I can work on that as a death threat and evaluate how to figure it out. And so I've given the leader now how to react, a way to do this. And usually it takes 3 or 4 times, because they'll make a mistake. I'll say, can we word that? Can we reword that? And I've got some hilarious stories about CEOs who did that, and then later said, my God, thank goodness he did it, because it's now our biggest product.
Yeah.
I was going to kill it prematurely. And I got 3 things for you to ask them. How can you learn more? What could you learn? Who could you talk to get some information? And then what little experiment could you do to learn more? So on the cost thing, why don't you get the costs and see what it might cost, make some rough estimates as what it might cost to do it. Then go talk to people in finance and other groups to say that they can do it with you. And then try to build a rough prototype to see if you've got the thing right to go do it. Now, you don't have to do all 3, but you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm now giving a playbook to the leader. Call it a death threat. Don't say it's dead. You don't know everything. Get them to learn more. Get them to collaborate with some others, and get them to run an experiment. Now I've got a method. And what's amazing is, when we put proactive problem solving together, we brought some clients in to see it. They said, this is brilliant. This will work. My people, this is exactly what they need. They don't know what to do. Because when we ask them, they're disengaged. Why are they doing it? They don't think it's their job, and they don't know how to do it. And so we give them a playbook. But they said, if you ship this, I will never speak to you again, Doug. So why? They said, because until you have a program for their manager, the managers will kill it. And so I delayed the book by 1.5 years. And in the book, I put some little hints for management. We developed a separate course. So there's a course for the teammate, there's a course for the managers, and then there's a course for the leaders. Because you really need to be 3-dimensional in this thing to make this work. But if you do, I promise you miracles will occur for you. It'll be fun again for you as a leader, and you'll get to be the kind of leader you thought you were going to be instead of all the crap you're doing now.
Yeah, all the stupid stuff. It's funny, listening to you talk, Doug, it speaks to my disc C data-driven engineering brain in a way that, because, I remember getting fired up about, Steve Blank and the minimum viable product and the whole business canvas thing and David Kelly and design thinking and IDEO. And it was all cool stuff, but this is so much more systematic. And it's a replicable process, right? It's something that I can wrap my brain around. It doesn't, to use your phrase from earlier, you don't have to get struck by lightning on the roof of the building here. You can just start doing it, right? You can build that system and then make that system better.
Eric, you are so right. And in fact, let me just, as they say in improv, and what we're finding happens, and we are now encouraging it, is when people's eyes are opened up about to solve a problem. I say, how do you solve problems at home? Oh, I wander around and look at some things, or I wander around the store. That's stimulus.
Yeah.
And then you talk to somebody. That's stimulus. You're doing it. Okay. You're already doing it. You know how to do this already. Yeah. Take what you're learning here and the tools and the techniques, very clear how to, and use them at home. Use them with your kids. Mm-hmm. And what you find is when your eyes are open to this, it isn't something you just do during the work. It's something that becomes part of your life.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's nothing more fun than learning and collaborating and experimenting. And it's all driven by curiosity. And when you know you can do it and you believe, sadly, so many people in the third grade were told they weren't creative. And so they're owning that thing that some dweeb told them.
Stupid.
When they can now do stuff, it is the joy. I've been in Congress, I've been on Dateline NBC, I've done nothing beats sitting with some kid who's got a ponytail, tattoos, plays weird music, and putting him in charge of the bottling machine, and where 6 engineers for 9 months couldn't do it, in a month the kid fixed it.
Wow.
Now with coaching and support.
Sure.
And now that kid, he's now out on the road. He's on the road today in Lexington selling whiskey.
Awesome.
There's no boundaries to this guy. I say, you want to sell? I never sold. I said, well, if distillery people are around, it gets a lot more credibility than hiring, people to do sampling and that. I'll give it a try. He said, you're going to teach me, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. I got your back, bro.
You know what it's like to have people like that? You know what that means to you? It's...
Oh, Ruby, I want to go to Eureka Ranch.
I know, I do too. Let's go.
Doug, I swear I could talk to you for the rest of the afternoon. This is so much good stuff. But before we bring the segment to a close, you as a distiller are going to make us a cocktail, aren't you?
Yes.
I am. I have glasses and I'll turn it down a little bit here.
I'm going to make you the big picture here.
Okay, so what we're going to do is the cocktails that we do for Dexter, a lot of them are from the 1800s, from a guy named Jerry Thomas, 1862, writes the first book on cocktails. And they're amazing.
I believe Ruby's husband has this book.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I thought that was going to be my next book. Instead, Proactive Problem Solving became my next book because I got so passionate about them. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a cocktail that is one of the very few modern cocktails, and it's equal parts. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to put a large ice cube, and I'm sitting here. We're going to put a large ice cube in the glass.
Awesome.
Okay,
that's our favorite. That's what Eric and I like.
And then we're going to use fresh lemon juice. If you use the bottled stuff, I will find you and haunt you. Okay? Let me check on this. I'm doing it on the desk, which is a really bad idea. I could hear about this. So we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Okay. And then we're going to take Aperol.
I like Aperol. You're speaking my language.
3/4 of an ounce of Aperol. And so that's going to go in, give us a nice color.
Pretty.
And then we're going to take Amaro Nannino. And you got to use this one. Don't use the one from Gallo, the cheap one. It costs you a couple bucks more, but this is the right one to use. And again, we're going to do it's equal parts, like Jimmy Buffett's song. Spraying on, equal parts. Then you're going to use, and you're in Colorado, and
so we're going to use Dexter.
We're going to use Dexter.
That's really good. I've literally had that.
You have?
Yeah.
She went to look for it, but they drank it all.
It's gone. It was so good. It was so good.
Buy more.
Okay. I'll tell my husband.
And what's amazing is this our woodcraft finishing process that we created. It has 200-year oak, so it takes you back in time. Mm-hmm. And this is the ultimate. And so then we add that, and then I'm just going to give it a quick little stir. And there's no garnish with this. It's served like this. And that, my friends, is called a paper plane. Cheers.
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 Oh, my God. That's good. Oh, my God.
Doug, so awesome. Doug, where do people go to learn more about you on the interwebs?
Well, we've got, there's Eureka Ranch and Brain Brew and that, and Dexter Bourbon, you can look at all those. But if you go to DougHall.com, that's got some simple information. There's actually on there, there's at DougHall.com, you can read the introduction. We put it up there that you can download it so you can get a better sense on it. And also you can contact me, and it truly comes to me like real, because I like to do that. And if you want for your organization, one of the things I do, and you have to get this because of listening to the podcast, is if you call and let me know about the podcast, I will come to you, because usually I have to work with leaders, which I love, but I really am passionate about working with the people. So if you get a bunch of volunteers from your company, we'll come out and run a demo for you at a fraction of the cost, and do that. And I love doing those. And if you want, get a couple of companies together or whatever, and I will come, and you can try it and see what happens. But I'm going to tell you, after they leave and they stop the stupid and it starts to go, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks and say, anything happening? And don't do this if you don't want to start off, because when you light these people up, what they can do is amazing.
Wow.
And I would love to come. And yes, I bring samples with me. And we can have a nice dinner afterwards. And if you want, I'll come over to your house. What I love best is to go over to an executive's house, and I'll bring a bunch of stuff, and I'll make some cocktails and teach you how to make cocktails. And I'll even bring a blending kit and make your own personal bourbon for you. Oh. So, because it's fun.
We got to make this happen.
All I know, Ruby, is one of our trips this year, we're going to route home through Cincinnati, and we're going to go to Brain Brew and get a tour. That's what I
love to have.
Yes.
That's what I want to do. Awesome. Yeah. All right, well, Doug, thank you so much. We're going to get into our little end of show ritual here. Funny things, good feels, and our silly cocktail. Today's a weird one. The cocktail's a weird one, but hang in there. Hang in there. Funny things from the internet that made Eric laugh this week. Funny thing number one is a map. It shows a naval amphibious base and the location of Fight Club, which the caption says, I'm pretty sure this blatantly breaks the first rule of Fight Club.
Never talk about Fight Club.
The next one comes from the HR files. Bro, somebody been sucking the filling out of the donuts in the break room. I fucking hate working here. And it's a picture of a box of donuts with a straw stuck in one. So
yummy.
These next two are for Ruby. Ruby, this seal has reached peak level of chill.
Aww, so cute.
This next one made me think of Ruby packing her suitcase for business travel. It says,
what's in there?
Bring only the essentials. Got it. That's a cat, Ruby. That's a cat.
I was like, is that a heating blanket or is that a cat? It's both. Done.
You know, Doug, this next one makes me laugh now even more because this restaurant has stopped the stupid and made something interesting here. You can see in this receipt, this customer bought 3 Miller Lights and a personal pizza, but this customer is also charged a $5 bitching fee that's listed on the receipt.
It's brilliant.
Brilliant. Bitch all you want, $5. But my favorite funny thing this week, I have a new hero, Hugh Davies. Rest in peace, you kindred spirit. It's a plaque on a bench that says, in loving memory of Hugh Davies, used to sit here and shout, fuck off at the seagulls. And birds is my transition into today's good feel story. Steve doing Steve. This is a good one.
It's not a bird. It's a plain old kid with a special talent. Here's Steve Hartman.
That is not a blue jay you're hearing, not a robin, nor a tufted titmouse. Those sounds are all coming from a Samuel, an 11-year-old Samuel Henderson.
I actually quite enjoy this.
Samuel, who is autistic and has Tourette syndrome, can perfectly imitate 50 birds.
What's the hardest bird to do?
Probably the barn swallow.
How's that go? Do you ever think you might be a bird?
Yeah. Some people say that I swallowed birds.
But you haven't swallowed any birds.
No, well, chickens.
Okay.
The kid is a born entertainer.
Because we eat chicken.
Yeah, I know, I got it.
But since he mostly practiced his calls on the playground, alone along the back fence, a lot of kids at his Choctaw, Oklahoma school hadn't ever heard.
Until the annual Nakoma Park Intermediate School Talent Show. Samuel really wanted to compete, but no kid from special ed had ever participated. And this would be mostly singing and dancing and band instruments. So bird sounds? His mother was nervous.
Some kids can be mean. And
the thought of that happening to him on stage in front of the whole school.
It would just break my heart if that were to have happened.
But Lori says his teacher convinced her that Samuel needed to spread his wings, so to speak. So he took to the stage. At first, the other kids didn't know what to think.
It really sounded like there was a bird in the building.
Exactly like.
I was like, what is this?
This is a bald eagle.
But as he continued and laid his passion bare, jaws dropped. The crowd came alive, and Samuel was not only accepted, he was admired.
He's really brave. It takes like a lot of courage to get yourself up there. He aced it. I don't think I saw one single kid like not clapping their hands.
The kids are roaring. I was so happy to see him living his dreams. My heart just exploded.
It's been almost a year since that talent show. And guess who now rocks the playground? Samuel. That's who.
Everyone here can do a peacock. It goes like this.
Now that's something to crow about. Steve Hartman, on the road in Choctaw, Oklahoma.
It gets you every week. Gets you every week. It's the little
so sweet
restoration in the faith in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Today's semi-quarantine cocktail is called, I'm sorry, what? It's a riff on a cocktail known as the El Chupacabra. You're going to need one house in Pueblo, an ounce of Blanco tequila, a ring camera, an ounce of Pimm's number one terrified owner, fresh lemon juice. This effed up video that she took, I don't know if you can see this picture here, but it's a weird thing. Little simple syrup. Wildlife officials said they think it might be a raccoon with mange. We're not sure.
Oh.
Some Peychaud's. Is it a Wolverine? Some Chinar. Is it a Chupacabra? A splash of soda water. Toss in a cucumber. I don't know what's happening here. I watched this video. This was on the news in Pueblo, and I watched that video. And
how many times?
Like 3. And that thing is weird. It's like a short kangaroo with long front arms. I don't know what it is. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. But you know what wasn't terrifying? Talking to Doug today. That wasn't terrifying.
Yeah.
This has been a fun show. Thank you, Doug, for being here. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We will be gone for 5 weeks. We're back at the end of May, but we won't let you down. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go have some dinner.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.